This happened on New Year's Day after a night of drinking. I had woken up at a party, kind of forgetting where I was, but remembered shortly after that I was at my best friend Danny's house. The room was filled with the remnants of last night's celebration, streamers hanging from the ceiling, empty cups scattered around, and a faint smell of smoke lingering in the air. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the grogginess, and glanced around to see a few other friends sprawled out on couches and the floor, still asleep. I started to look for my phone but couldn't find it. I checked under the couch cushions, in my jacket pockets, and even in the kitchen, but it was nowhere to be found. I began to ask if anyone knew where it was, but everyone just shrugged, still half asleep themselves. We tried calling it, but it seemed like it was off, which only added to my growing anxiety. Danny, ever the problem solver, offered to let me log into my Apple ID on her MacBook so I could use Find My iPhone. I was having trouble logging in at first, my fingers fumbling over the keyboard, but thankfully, I was able to get in after a few attempts. To my confusion, it showed that my phone wasn't at Danny's house, but at a location 20 minutes away. Although I was in an annoying situation, I was at least relieved it was showing its live location. My iPhone 14 Pro was able to still show its location even after it was off, a feature I was now grateful for. I asked if anyone knew where or who lived at the address, but none of my friends recognized it. My friend Allie suggested that maybe someone took it by mistake. But I mean, who takes a phone by mistake? I thought, shaking my head in disbelief. Determined to retrieve my phone, Danny, Allie, a couple of other friends, and I piled into Danny's car and drove to the location. The drive was filled with nervous laughter and speculation about what we might find. As we pulled up to the address, we were all shocked. It wasn't the cute little house that Google Earth had made it seem like, or at least not anymore. Allie quipped sarcastically, "Seems like this place is abandoned now, girl." Her words hung in the air as we all stared at the dilapidated structure before us. Molly, another friend, asked, "So are we going in?" Her voice was a mix of curiosity and apprehension. I didn't want to, honestly, but I felt like I had no choice. We were here, and my phone was inside. We all took a deep breath and walked in, the door creaking ominously as we entered. As soon as we stepped inside, the smell of mold and something else, something foul, hit us like a wave. It was so disgusting that I had to cover my nose with my sleeve. But I was determined to find my phone or the person who took it. We all kept yelling hello, but there was no answer, only the echo of our voices bouncing off the walls. Eventually, Emma, another friend, pointed out, "This door is locked." She wasn't kidding. It was a heavy old wooden door, and despite our efforts, it wouldn't budge. We all took turns trying to kick it down, and just before what seemed like the last push before the door broke down, we heard it unlock and open slowly. An old man stood there, looking at us with a mix of confusion and annoyance. "Can I help you?" he asked politely, though his eyes were wary. We were all scared, but Danny took charge and said, "Yes, we are looking for a phone which says it's here. Where is it?" The old man frowned and said, "I don't know what you're talking about," and tried to close the door. That's when Allie, Danny, and I, along with the others, pushed against it, preventing him from shutting us out. We forced the door open, and the old man started screaming and swinging his fists at us. He managed to land a few punches, but in the chaos, he slipped away and ran deeper into the house. In the room behind the door, we saw a disturbing collection of photographs, some of women, some of porn stars, pinned to the walls. In another corner, there was a pile of something that looked like poop, and in a closet, we found a few of his personal items, including my phone. The whole experience was surreal and unsettling. We ended up calling the cops to handle the situation, explaining everything we had seen and experienced. I was relieved to have my phone back, but to this day, I still have no idea how that man got it. The memory of that eerie house and the strange old man lingers in my mind, a bizarre start to the new year that I won't soon forget. That New Year's celebration night at Times Square was supposed to be a fresh start for me. As the clock ticked down to midnight, the air was electric with excitement, and I was determined to make the most of it. I had always been a bit of an introvert, but that night I was on a mission to change that. With no friends to celebrate with, I decided to step out of my comfort zone and try to make some new connections. As I navigated through the bustling crowd, I spotted a guy who caught my eye. He had an easy smile and seemed approachable, so I gathered my courage and struck up a conversation. We hit it off instantly, exchanging stories and laughing over shared interests. As the night wore on, we decided to exchange Snapchat information, and our conversation continued well into the early hours over a couple of drinks. Eventually, it was time to part ways, but I felt optimistic about the new connection I had made. The next morning, I woke up to a message from him. It read, "It was nice seeing you. Can we see each other today?" I was flattered, but had prior commitments, so I politely declined, saying I was busy. His response was unexpected. He left me on read, which left me feeling a bit uneasy. However, the following day, he reached out again, and I decided to brush off the initial weirdness. After all, he was charming, and I was eager to expand my social circle. Over the next few weeks, we continued to snap each other regularly. It felt nice to have someone to talk to, even if it was just through a screen. One evening, I sent him a picture of a new shirt I had bought, and he complimented how the color red suited me. I casually mentioned that I preferred blue, which led to an unexpected revelation. He asked why I had a red car then. I was taken aback. I had never mentioned my car to him, let alone its color. Alarm bells started ringing in my head. I asked him how he knew about my car, and he nonchalantly replied that he must have guessed or that I had told him. I was certain I hadn't. My mind raced as I realized that my Snapchat location had been on this entire time. He had been tracking my whereabouts without my knowledge. When I confronted him about it, he feigned ignorance, claiming he didn't even know I had my location on. But I remembered our conversation about Snapchat maps when he mentioned watching a concert through it. Feeling uneasy, I decided to distance myself from him and turned off my location. I needed time to process everything and figure out my next steps. A few days later, I received an unexpected apology from him, admitting he had lied and asking if he could come over. While I appreciated his honesty, I wasn't ready to see him, so I declined. His response was shocking. He lashed out, calling me names and claiming he had bought me flowers. Confused and alarmed, I left him on read. Then, to my horror, he sent a picture of my house. Panic set in as I realized he was nearby. I quickly turned off all the lights and retreated to my room, frantically messaging him to leave me alone. His response was to bang on my door, shouting for me to open it. Terrified, I called the police and explained the situation. They arrived promptly and arrested him, ensuring my safety. I filed a restraining order against him, and thankfully, I haven't heard from him since. This experience left me shaken and wary of making new friends. It was a harsh lesson in trust and privacy, but I know that eventually I'll need to open up again. Next time, I'll be more cautious and take things at my own pace, ensuring my safety and peace of mind. That New Year's celebration night started with such promise. I had been invited by a friend to a house party, a rare opportunity for me to break away from my usual routine of staying home. I figured it would be good for me to socialize and ring in the new year with others, so I decided to go. The atmosphere was lively, with music pumping and people chatting excitedly about their resolutions and hopes for the coming year. At first, I stuck to my usual habit of not drinking, but my friends encouraged me to loosen up and join in the festivities. With a bit of persuasion, I finally agreed, and soon enough, I found myself genuinely enjoying the night, laughing and dancing without a care in the world. As the night progressed, I found myself needing to use the restroom frequently, a common occurrence for me. On one of those trips, I noticed the bathroom door was slightly ajar, so I pushed it open, flicked on the light, and was startled to find a guy standing there, wearing a black mask, the kind people wore during the COVID pandemic. In my tipsy state, I jokingly asked, "Are you here to start COVID already in the new year, dude?" He chuckled and replied, "Nah, just to start a different conversation." His response sent a chill down my spine, even through the haze of alcohol. Something about it felt off. I quickly apologized for barging in and backed out of the bathroom, shutting the door behind me. I intended to find my friends and tell them about the odd encounter. But before I could reach them, chaos erupted. Gunshots rang out, shattering the festive atmosphere and sending everyone into a panic. Instinctively, I ran upstairs, my mind clouded with fear and confusion, and ducked into a random room, hiding in the closet. The sounds from outside were terrifying. Gunshots, screams, and cries filled the air. I crouched in the darkness, my heart pounding, struggling to comprehend the nightmare unfolding around me. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as I waited, hoping for the ordeal to end. Eventually, the chaos began to subside, and I heard the distant wail of police sirens approaching. Just as I was about to emerge from my hiding spot, the door to the room burst open, and someone rushed inside, slamming it shut. I held my breath, peering through the slats of the closet door, and my heart sank as I recognized the man from the bathroom. He was panting heavily, a gun clutched in his hand. I remained frozen, listening as he muttered to himself, clearly in distress. Minutes felt like hours as I stayed hidden, praying he wouldn't discover me. Finally, I heard the police shouting commands from outside the room. The man hesitated then, to my immense relief, he surrendered without further violence. The police entered and took him into custody, and soon after, they found me huddled in the closet. Though shaken, I was unharmed. Miraculously, no one had been killed that night, though 4 partygoers were injured. The realization of how close we had all come to tragedy left me with a lingering sense of vulnerability. In the aftermath, I grappled with the trauma of that night. It haunted my thoughts, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. Yet, amid the fear and uncertainty, I found a renewed appreciation for the people around me and the resilience of the human spirit. As I moved forward, I resolved to cherish each moment and to never take safety for granted again.